tonight we're going to be recognizing a real special New Yorker, someone who I have a great deal of admiration for. Last night I joined many Brooklyn and citywide government, business, and community leaders as we came out to celebrate and applaud and salute the work of Pratt President Dr. Thomas Schutte, who is stepping down after 2 decades plus at Pratt. Under his leadership, Pratt has been transformed into one of the world's leading colleges of art, design, and architecture. The Schutte years will be remembered for academic excellence. I will remember it for what he did for the community. Anyone that knows this part of Brooklyn knows that it was in terrible shape. Dr. Schutte led from the front. He looked outside the campus gates and said, I got to do something about that. And with that, it's our turn tonight to celebrate a real special man, someone who's made a great contribution to the city. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Thomas Schutte, President of Pratt Institute. Thank you very much. What a great night last night. You came to the event last night with a document. Could you tell the audience a little bit about that piece of paper that you found in your files and what that was all about?
I found a couple of pages that I had written in September of '96. And it was essentially as a result of bringing together about 5, 6, or 7 community leaders. And I met with them back in September of '96 to talk with them about their ideas for how we might put together some kind of a committee or a group to deal with our neighborhood. Our neighborhood. And
what was it looking like?
Essentially, the neighborhood was distressing. Certainly to me, because I was a fairly newcomer to the Brooklyn area from another city. And the neighborhood was downtrodden. It was full of crime. It was unsafe. It looked awful.
And it had a terrible nickname.
And it had, yes, Murder Avenue. That was Myrtle Avenue, the main avenue going, or street going through the area. And it had a terrible, terrible nickname. And the question was, what could we do to transform this neighborhood? How can we transform it? And one of the things that I knew was that I was not an expert in this whole thing, but I wanted to bring these people together and talk with them about their ideas. And after a couple of hours of meeting at my house, in my office, what we agreed to do was to put together a new committee that was going to help transform the neighborhood. And so I went home and I wrote a draft document. And this draft document not only pinpointed what the issues and the problems and the challenges were in terms of the neighborhood, but what we would do to go forward to transform the neighborhood. And I found that document a couple of days ago, and I hadn't seen it since then. And so last night at this celebration, which was a great surprise to me, I read the document.
You could check off a lot of boxes.
Yes.
Is the neighborhood cleaner?
Oh, without question.
Are there more small businesses?
Absolutely.
How many more small businesses since the day you walked in?
There are dozens and dozens and dozens of small businesses, and also businesses that reflect what I would call a variety of businesses. One of the things that we wanted to make sure as a small committee working on the neighborhood was that we would get businesses that would represent a wide variety of tastes and needs and so forth for the business. The businesses would not just simply be all bars, emporia, and so forth. and we achieved all of that.
I often talk about you, and I have brought groups from all over the city, international groups, my students at Baruch, to see the miracle on Myrtle. And one of the things I do is talk about your leadership style. Could you share a little bit with the audience of what that's all about, not just on campus, but on the street? It's amazing what I have watched.
Well, and I used to be a teacher, a professor, and so forth. So I guess we both have teaching in our genes. But at any rate, I believe very strongly that individuals and groups need to be empowered. They need to be given the opportunity to participate. They need to know that in terms of the group that they're participating in, that they are not being preempted by someone who's got it all worked out, that there clearly is participation in ideas, clearly participation in terms of what the next steps are and who takes those next steps and so forth. There has to be participation. And I believe very, very strongly in that.
It's amazing for me, and this is more commentary than a question. You walking around that neighborhood, poking your head into the small businesses, I learned quite a bit from you. Let's talk about Pratt for a second. You've got to be proud of what the legacy that you have left at Pratt. We have a group of finalists here, entrepreneurs, small businesses that are looking to grow. Advice for small businesses and entrepreneurs based on your experience at Pratt, which has really become an incubator for many small businesses.
Laying out what the steps might be, and how one proceeds. I would say first there needs to be a group of people that come together that are committed, that believe in what they're doing. Secondly, the point that I made earlier, that there needs to be participation in the problem-solving need. When you come together and you begin to try to fix things, it's a problem-solving experience. And problem-solving really needs to have some good hard work, and it needs to have good participation. I would say also there needs to be results. And the results need to show promise. Results need to be exciting. Results need to make changes. Results need to be demonstrated from the standpoint of their value. And this is the way it needs to be. One of the things that's important too is follow-up, making sure that if you're starting a project to solve a problem, that you not only identify the problem and you identify how to go about solving the problem, but you also look at ways to solve the problem. And you look at those things that can be done to make things better. There also needs to be an assessment of the results. You can't just, I don't think, you can just simply think you're going to solve a problem without thinking about, once you get the ideas, once you get some solutions on the table, you need to identify those solutions and you need to assess them. And if you assess them, you may find that you need to modify some of those things that you've already done as a result of assessment. So it's a complete loop in terms of follow-through. But again, all the way through this process is the need to have individuals participate. And
So let me bring you right back to the beginning.
Right.
You had that vision in the beginning. You sat down as a new president, wondering whether you should pack your bags and head back up to Rhode Island after looking out the gates of Brooklyn. You developed this vision for what the neighborhood should look like. What do you see as the future of Pratt and that neighborhood going forward?
More. It doesn't stop. And also, even with the changes in technology over time, technology gets fused into all of this. So the technology becomes a partner, which you need, and you can begin to determine how technology can be infused and or incorporated into the problem solving. Our neighborhood, well, the neighborhood has become what shall I say, a neighborhood that one wants to live in. That means real estate. That means buying property, that means investing. Neighborhood also means the servicing on the retail side. There needs to be retailing somehow in the neighborhood, and that's another special process to get moving. I find, for example, in the Pratt neighborhood, the number of people in the neighborhood who feel good about campus. One of the things that I did and I worked on specifically was the inclusiveness of the neighborhood in the community. The fact that the neighbors, when I came to Pratt, didn't go near campus. Why? The campus looked ugly. The campus was not inviting. We, as an institution, did not take the initiative to invite people into the neighborhood. One of the first things that I did was kind of fun, and I enjoyed as well. It was getting to be early fall in my early days, and I got a group of about 20 neighbors turned on with Pratt from the standpoint of helping plant a garden. Our gardens were awful. We have a number of acres that can be made to look beautiful, but they were awful. And neighbors went out and, at my suggestion, and bought, I don't know, 300 or 400 tulip bulbs. I suggested some colors. They added some thoughts about colors, and we had a planting day in the fall. And we took a garden that was just simply bereft. It had nothing left in it, and we planted tulips all day long. And people in the neighborhood felt very good about doing that. And I thought it was very important that they, when they said they wanted to participate in buying bulbs, that they participate in buying bulbs and not just let me supply them with a bunch of bulbs. Particularly, we didn't have a lot of money to even spend on such things as extra bulbs. And in the spring, when the garden burst forth with all of the bulbs, I had all the neighbors over for some treats and stuff, and they felt very good talking about what they did for Pratt.
I met many of those neighborhoods last night, and you could understand why Tom Schutte has had an impact in this city and why I wanted you to hear from a man who's been an inspiration not only to me, but to a city. Put your hands together one more time and thank this man for the contributions that he has made to the city of New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Tom Schutte. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you very much.